the night was heavy with silence. The moon glowed faintly over the village square, casting long shadows on the dusty ground. In the middle of the crowd stood a trembling girl, no more than 15, her eyes wet with tears, her small hands clutching the edge of her torn wrapper. At her feet lay a golden necklace, the pride of her family, the very jewel her late mother once wore before she died. Beside her, a woman wailed loudly, pointing fingers with venom in her voice. "She stole it. I found it in her room with my own eyes. This girl is a thief." The woman was her stepmother, Aduk, respected, cunning, and trusted by everyone. The girl shook her head desperately, her voice breaking. "I didn't take it. Please, believe me, I didn't." But her father's face was hard, his chest rising with anger. The crowd murmured, heads shaking, whispers spreading like wildfire. "So young, and already a thief. Shame on her family." The father turned to her, his voice thunderous. "From this night, you are no longer my daughter. Leave my house before the sun rises, or I will cast a curse upon you." The girl collapsed to her knees, crying, begging, but no one listened. Her young life shattered that night. Cast away. Branded. Forgotten. But life has a way of turning. And the same unwanted daughter they mocked will one day return, not as the helpless girl they threw out, but as a woman they will bow before. Because the night always remembers. Welcome to Nightfall Tales by Wara, where stories breathe and emotions speak. Stay with us, the night has only just begun. The cock crowed faintly in the distance as dawn painted the sky with streaks of orange. Inside the large compound of Baba Adiwale, a respected trader in Oyo village, preparations were on for the annual family Thanksgiving. Baba Adiwale had remarried years ago after the death of his first wife, Abike. From that first union, he had only one child, a girl named Ayomide. At 15, Ayomide was a quiet, soft-spoken girl, carrying her late mother's gentle eyes and delicate frame. But her presence was a constant thorn in the flesh of her stepmother, Aduk. Aduk had children of her own and despised Ayomide's resemblance to her late mother. Every time she looked at the girl, she felt threatened. In her heart, she vowed that Ayomide would never outshine her own children, no matter what it took. On that fateful morning, Aduk carefully carried a small wooden box into her room. Inside lay the family's most treasured possession. A golden necklace, passed down from generations, the same necklace that once hung proudly on Ayomide's late mother's neck. Aduk opened the box slowly, her lips curving into a wicked smile. "Tonight," she whispered, "you will leave this house for good." Later that evening, after the Thanksgiving feast had ended and the family gathered in the courtyard, Aduk rose suddenly, clutching her chest in false panic. "My necklace," she cried. "The golden necklace is gone." The compound erupted in confusion. Everyone searched frantically, the rooms, the kitchen, the storerooms. And then, in a calculated performance, Aduk marched into Ayomide's room. Moments later, she emerged, holding the necklace in her hand. Gasps filled the air. "I found it, hidden under her mat." Aduk screamed, pointing at the trembling girl. Ayomide's eyes widened in shock. "No! I swear, I never touched it. It's not mine." But her words fell on deaf ears. The crowd of relatives, neighbors, and friends gathered for the celebration now stared at her as though she were filth. "So you're the one?" Baba Adiwale's voice thundered. "You dare steal from your own family?" "No, Papa, I didn't. Please believe me." Ayomide cried, falling on her knees. Tears streamed down her face, her young heart pounding. But Aduk fell to the ground dramatically, clutching the necklace, sobbing. "This girl has brought shame upon us. How can we keep a thief in this house?" The murmurs grew. People shook their heads. Whispers tore through the crowd like wildfire. A thief, at 15? So shameless. It must be in her blood. Ayomide's heart broke. She turned to her father, begging. "Papa, please. I swear, I didn't." But Baba Adiwale's eyes were like stone. "From this day forward," he declared, his voice echoing through the courtyard, "you are no longer my daughter. Get out of this house before sunrise, or you will face my curse. The ground beneath Ayomide seemed to sink. Her father, the man she loved, the man she trusted, had turned against her. And so, before the first light of dawn, Ayomide was thrown out of her father's compound, with nothing but the clothes on her back and the shame of a crime she never committed. That night, her childhood ended. Ayomide wandered the dusty streets alone, her feet sore, her eyes swollen from tears. Every corner of the village whispered her disgrace. Children pointed and laughed when they saw her. Women drew their wrappers tighter, shielding their belongings as she passed. Men spat on the ground, calling her a thief. The once beloved daughter of Baba Adiwale had become a stain on the family name. For weeks, she begged for food. Some gave her scraps, others chased her away with insults. Nights were cold, cruel, and endless. She slept under trees, in abandoned huts, wherever she could find shelter. And yet, despite the pain, Ayomide held on. Somewhere deep inside her was a flame that refused to die. She replayed the scene over and over in her mind. Aduk's wicked smile, the necklace in her hand, the crowd's accusing eyes, her father's thunderous rejection. Those memories carved scars in her heart, scars that grew harder with each passing day. Years crawled by. Ayomide found work in neighboring villages, sweeping floors, washing clothes, carrying loads in the market. Every coin she earned came with sweat and humiliation. But she endured. And as she grew older, her beauty blossomed, her mind sharpened, and her spirit hardened. She learned to keep her pain hidden, smiling only when necessary. But in her heart, she never forgot. Whenever she saw gold, her chest tightened. Not because of greed, but because of the necklace that destroyed her life. The lie. The betrayal. The disgrace. She carried it like a shadow. One rainy evening, as thunder rolled across the sky, Ayomide sat under the roof of a small shed where she worked as a helper. She was 18 now, tall, graceful, her once soft eyes hardened with sorrow. As she sat watching the rain, an older woman she worked for placed a hand on her shoulder. Ayomide, she said kindly, you have suffered much. But life is not always cruel. One day, your story will change. Ayomide smiled faintly, but inside her heart burned with something deeper, not hope, but fire. That night, as lightning flashed across the sky, Ayomide whispered to herself. One day, I will return. One day, they will see me again. Not as the weak child they threw away, but as a woman they will bow before. I will clear my name. And those who mocked me will beg for mercy. It was not a cry of a child anymore. It was an oath. Silent, deadly, unbreakable. Ayomide had been broken, scarred, and forgotten. But she would rise. And when she did, her return would shake the very ground they walked on. The night was long, the wind cold against Ayomide's skin as she walked along the narrow road leading out of the village. She was 17 now, hardened by years of mockery and rejection. She had stopped expecting kindness. But fate has a strange way of working. That evening, a carriage stopped beside her. From it descended a tall woman in fine Ankara, her head tie large and elegant, her gold earrings glinting even in the dim lantern light. Her name was Madame Ronk, a wealthy trader who often traveled between towns selling fabrics and gold. Madame Ronk's eyes lingered on Ayomide's weary face, the dirt on her clothes, the sadness in her eyes. Yet beneath it, she saw something else, resilience. Girl, she asked softly, where are your people? Ayomide lowered her gaze, her voice breaking. I have no people. Madame Ronk studied her, then nodded slowly. From today, you will follow me. I will make something of you. It was the first time in years that someone spoke to Ayomide without scorn. She followed Madame Ronk, and from that day, her life began to change. In the city, Ayomide was introduced to a world she never imagined, a world of wealth, education, and endless opportunity. Madame Ronk treated her like a daughter, teaching her how to trade, how to negotiate, how to speak with confidence. The city whispered new names for her, the girl with fire in her eyes, the one who never bends. For the first time since her rejection, Ayomide tasted hope. But in her heart, the memory of her stepmother's lie remained sharp. And every night before she slept, she whispered her silent vow. I will return. I will make them pay. Years rolled by like river water. By 21, Ayomide had transformed. No longer the fragile girl who once wept in the village square, she had become a woman of strength, clothed in elegance, walking with power. Under Madame Ronk's mentorship, she learned the art of business. She traveled to Lagos, to Ibadan, to Kano, trading fabrics, jewelry, and gold. She mastered numbers, speech, and strategy. People admired her wisdom, her boldness, her beauty. But most of all, they respected her resilience. One afternoon, as she stood in her shop surrounded by colorful fabrics and glittering jewelry, a customer whispered to another. Who is she? She looks like a queen. She is Ayomide, the other replied. She built everything herself. They say she was once a poor outcast, but now, look at her. Ayomide overheard, and a small smile tugged at her lips. They didn't know the half of it. At night, she often sat alone, staring at the golden chains and rings in her shop. Gold! The same symbol of her disgrace. She now owned so much of it that it filled chests and boxes. But she never wore any. Because in her heart, one piece of gold still haunted her, the necklace that ruined her life. And one day soon, she knew, she would take it back. By 23, Ayomide was unstoppable. Her name carried weight in the markets, in the banks, even in political circles. Men of power bowed to her, women admired her, and children followed her in the streets, pointing. That is Madame Ayomide, the great trader. She built a mansion in the city, furnished with the finest things. She drove the best cars, wore the best clothes, and surrounded herself with loyal workers. But beneath the glamour, her heart remained cold. For all her success, one thing still burned in her soul, the night of her rejection. One evening, as she sat in her mansion sipping wine, Madame Ronk, now older, smiled at her. You are a star now, Ayomide. You can forget the past. Live in peace. Ayomide's eyes darkened. No, Mama. The past made me. And until I return to that village and face them, my story is not complete. That night, she stood before the mirror, her reflection fierce, powerful, unrecognizable from the broken child she once was. She whispered to her reflection. The unwanted daughter is coming home. And this time, they will not forget my name. The road back to Oyo village stretched before Ayomide like a ghost from her past. It had been 8 long years since she last walked those paths. Now, she didn't come as the broken girl they threw away. She came in a sleek black car, her driver at the wheel, her bodyguards trailing behind. But she did not announce herself. Not yet. Dressed in a simple wrapper and scarf, Ayomide entered the village on foot, leaving her cars parked at a distance. Nobody recognized her. She looked like just another wealthy stranger visiting her ancestral home. She walked slowly through the marketplace, watching. Listening. And then she saw them. Her father, Baba Adiwale, now older, his shoulders stooped, his once proud eyes dim. And beside him, still sharp, still loud, still proud, was Aduk, her stepmother, wrapped in expensive lace, surrounded by women who bowed to her as though she were queen. Ayomide's jaw tightened. She could almost feel the sting of that night again. The necklace in Aduk's hands, her father's words banishing her. But she swallowed her anger. Revenge required patience. From the shadows, she watched them. Every smile, every word, every gesture. She wanted to know what had become of them. And as she lingered in the village, she began to hear whispers of a secret Aduk had hidden for years. One night, Ayomide sat quietly in a palm wine joint, dressed in disguise. The men around her gossiped freely, not knowing the stranger at the corner table was the very girl they once mocked. Have you heard? One man whispered, leaning close to another. Heard what? That Aduk's first son is not Baba Adiwale's blood. Ayomide froze, her cup halfway to her lips. The men continued. They say before she married Baba Adiwale, she had an affair with a wealthy chief from the next village. The boy she claimed was Adiwale's firstborn may not even belong to this family. Ayomide's heart pounded. This was bigger than she imagined. The woman who destroyed her life, the woman who framed her, carried a secret so dark it could burn the entire family. That night, Ayomide returned to the city, her mind racing. She sat before her mirror, her reflection fierce. "So, Aduk," she whispered, "you stole my childhood with lies. But I will steal your pride with truth." For the first time, her revenge had teeth. She wasn't just going to return for herself. She was going to shatter Aduk's entire world. Days later, Ayomide returned to the village again, this time blending more with the people, listening, digging. And then came a blow she did not expect. Her father. She discovered he knew the truth about Aduk's son all along. He knew the boy was not his blood, yet he kept it buried, silenced by shame and the fear of scandal. Ayomide's chest tightened with rage. So this was the man who called her a thief? The man who cursed her and drove her into the night? The same man who lived with another woman's lie for years? The betrayal cut deeper than any wound. That night, as she stood outside her father's compound in the shadows, her eyes burned with tears, not of weakness, but of fury. "I was innocent," she whispered to the dark sky. "And you all knew nothing. You threw me away. Now, it is my turn. I will return not to beg, but to conquer. To destroy your lies with fire." The time for waiting was over. The unwanted daughter was no longer in the shadows. She was coming. And she was bringing war. Ayomide came back to the village with a new plan. This time, she did not hide only in shadows. She introduced herself as Madame Yemi, a wealthy businesswoman from the city, seeking land in the village for a large project. Nobody suspected she was the abandoned girl they once mocked. Her expensive car, her elegant dressing, her calm but commanding voice, all of it made the villagers respect her instantly. Even her father bowed when she greeted him, not knowing he was bowing to his own daughter. But when Aduk met her, there was a strange moment. Aduk's sharp eyes narrowed, scanning her face. "You look familiar," Aduk said slowly, suspicion curling in her tone. Ayomide smiled, her heart steady. "Perhaps you have seen me in Lagos," she said smoothly. "People often say my face looks like someone they know." Aduk nodded but did not stop staring. A seed of unease had already been planted in her heart, and Ayomide wanted that seed to grow. As Madame Yemi, Ayomide offered a large donation to the village, bags of rice, money for the widows, and scholarships for children. The whole community sang her praise. Her father's compound became the center of activity, as people came to thank him for bringing such a blessing into the village. Baba Adiwale swelled with pride, but Aduk's smile was thin and uneasy. Something about this woman disturbed her. Then, Ayomide struck her first silent blow. At the village gathering, she stood before everyone and said with a calm smile, "Not all children are truly children of their fathers. Some houses are built on secrets. And secrets have a way of destroying families." The words hung in the air like thunder. The crowd shifted uncomfortably, whispering. Aduk's face turned pale for a brief second before she forced a laugh. But inside, she trembled. She could feel it, this stranger knew something. And for the first time in years, Aduk felt fear. One late evening, Ayomide disguised herself further and slipped into the compound where she once grew up. Her eyes traced every corner, every wall that once witnessed her pain. She walked silently, unseen, until she reached the back of the house. There, through the window, she saw them, her father, Aduk, and the children. Her half-brother, the one Aduk claimed was Baba Adiwale's first son, sat proudly beside his mother. He was Aduk's pride, the heir of the family. Ayomide's lips curled in a cold smile. If only he knew he was living a borrowed glory, she whispered. That night, she sent an anonymous letter into the compound. The letter contained only a single line. "The child you call your son is not yours. Ask your wife the truth." When Baba Adiwale read it, his hands shook violently. Aduk snatched the paper from him, her face red with fury. "Who dares write this lie?" she screamed. But deep inside, her soul quaked. Baba Adiwale said nothing. He only stared at her, his eyes filled with a fear she had not seen in years. From the shadows outside the compound, Ayomide watched, her heart burning with both pain and satisfaction. The storm had entered the house. And it was only the beginning. The village planned its annual festival, a day when chiefs, elders, and families gathered in the town square to celebrate. As Madame Yemi, Ayomide donated heavily to the festival, earning the honor of giving a short speech. Standing tall in her rich attire, her voice carried power. Some of us grew up in homes where we were unloved, where lies replaced truth, and where innocent children were made to suffer for sins they never committed. The crowd went silent. Everyone listened. She continued, her eyes darting briefly toward Aduk in the crowd. I once knew of a girl who was accused of stealing gold. She was cast out, beaten, and disgraced. But the truth is this, the gold was never stolen by her. It was hidden by the very hand that accused her. Gasps filled the air. All eyes turned toward Aduk, who was trembling and sweating under her wrapper. She tried to laugh it off. These are just stories. Don't look at me like that, she shouted. But the damage was already done. A heavy cloud of doubt now hung over her reputation. And Baba Adiwale, her husband, stared at her with eyes that demanded answers. Aduk tried to hold her family together after the festival humiliation. But Ayomide was not done. 2 days later, another letter circulated around the village. This time, it was not anonymous. It bore Madame Yemi's seal. Inside, it read, "The boy Aduk calls Baba Adiwale's heir is not of his blood. The truth has been buried too long. Let the elders call for a cleansing ritual and see whose blood ties him." The letter spread like wildfire. Villagers whispered, some boldly pointing fingers at Aduk. Baba Adiwale called his wife that night. His voice was cold, sharp like a blade. "Aduk, is it true? Did you deceive me all these years?" Aduk collapsed to her knees, crying, shaking, trying to deny. But her tears carried no conviction. Baba Adiwale's heart broke into 1,000 pieces. His first son, the boy he cherished, might not even be his own. And watching from her mansion, Ayomide smiled bitterly. She had opened the wound. Now, it would bleed. The elders summoned Baba Adiwale and his family to the palace of the Baal. The matter was too heavy to be ignored. Ayomide came, still as Madame Yemi, sitting among the elders with regal poise. The Baal spoke. "There is unrest in Baba Adiwale's household. Words of deceit have reached our ears. It is said that his first son is not his blood. This is a matter of shame if it is true. We must settle it today." The whole village gathered, murmuring, waiting. Baba Adiwale turned to Aduk, his eyes blazing with betrayal. "Tell the truth before the gods. Is that boy mine?" Aduk stammered, shook, and wept. She tried to deny, but the fear in her eyes betrayed her. Finally, in a fit of rage, Baba Adiwale shouted, "Bring the boy here. Let the gods judge this matter." The boy was dragged forward, terrified. Ayomide's heart twisted painfully, the boy was innocent. He had no part in Aduk's lies. But she hardened herself. The truth had to come out. The village priest prepared the ritual. The crowd leaned forward. Aduk screamed, clinging to her son. And then, with a calm, chilling voice that cut through the noise, Ayomide stood and spoke. "I know this matter because I lived it. The girl who was cast away, the daughter accused of stealing, the one you all called a curse. She is me. And now I stand before you, not as a beggar, not as a slave, but as the truth you buried." Gasps exploded. Faces froze in shock. Baba Adiwale staggered back as if lightning had struck him. "You?" "Ayomide," he whispered. "Yes, father," she said, her voice both bitter and proud. "I am the unwanted daughter you threw away. And I have returned for the truth." The entire compound went into chaos. Aduk screamed in terror, her lies unraveling at last. The town square trembled with noise after Ayomide's revelation. Some shouted in disbelief, others cursed Aduk under their breath. Baba Adiwale's chest heaved as he glared at his wife. All these years, you let me hate my own blood while you danced in lies? Aduk dropped to her knees, wailing, her wrapper slipping from her shoulders. They will kill me. Forgive me, she cried. But the crowd was merciless. Confess, someone shouted. Tell the truth, another roared. Finally, under the crushing weight of eyes and whispers, Aduk's lips trembled open. Yes, I lied. I hid the gold. It was me. I wanted Ayomide gone. I wanted her gone because she was not mine. The words fell like a thunderbolt. The whole square screamed. Children cried. The chiefs banged their staffs on the ground in disgust. Ayomide stood still, her eyes burning with tears she refused to shed. The truth was out, and Aduk's reign as queen of the household had shattered. The Baal rose to his feet, his staff shaking the earth. Aduk, you have committed abomination, a lie that scattered a child, poisoned a household, and disgraced a man of honor before the gods. The crowd chanted, some spitting at Aduk's feet. Baba Adiwale collapsed onto a stool, his face pale with shame. So, the daughter I threw away, the one I never looked back for, she was innocent all along? Ayomide's throat tightened. She wanted to scream, to weep, to run into her father's arms, but bitterness held her back. You chose her words over me, she said, her voice cold. You never even asked me once if it was true. You let me rot outside your gates. Her words pierced his soul like a spear. Baba Adiwale shook, his hands covering his face as tears streamed down his cheeks. The boy Aduk's son clung to his mother, confused, frightened. And Ayomide, though burning with vengeance, felt her heart twist. The boy was innocent, just like she had once been. The chiefs decreed punishment. Aduk was stripped of all honor. She was ordered to leave Baba Adiwale's compound before sunset. The villagers mocked her as she staggered away, her once proud head bowed in disgrace. But the worst punishment was not from the chiefs. It was from her husband. Standing tall, Baba Adiwale's voice cracked like thunder. Aduk, you destroyed my family. You made me curse my own blood. From today, you are nothing to me. Go and die with your shame. Aduk screamed, falling to the ground, begging, but he turned his back on her. Ayomide stood quietly, her heart raging with mixed emotions. Victory was hers, yet her chest felt heavy. She had her revenge. She had exposed her stepmother. She had reclaimed her name. But inside, a question gnawed at her soul. Would this revenge ever heal the scars of the years she lost? The drums of the festival that had once celebrated joy now pounded like war drums in the air. The whole village knew it. The unwanted daughter had returned, and she had burned the lies to ashes. Night fell heavy over Adiwale's compound. The drums of mockery had stopped, and silence reigned. Ayomide sat alone in the courtyard, staring at the moon. Her chest felt both light and heavy. Aduk was gone, her lies shattered. The village now honored Ayomide's name, and her story spread from mouth to mouth like wildfire. But inside, her heart was far from peaceful. Her father walked slowly toward her, carrying a lantern. His eyes were swollen, his voice trembling. My daughter. Ayomide, he whispered, kneeling before her. I wronged you. I cursed you. I let a snake poison my blood against my own child. For years, you suffered, and I was blind. Forgive me, Ayomide. Please, forgive me. Ayomide's throat tightened. She looked at the man who once cast her away like dirt. A part of her longed to throw herself into his arms, to feel like a daughter again. But another part of her screamed, he abandoned you. He believed the lie. He never protected you. She closed her eyes as tears streamed down her face. Baba, I will never forget. But I will not let bitterness rule me forever. I forgive you, but the wound will take time to heal. Baba Adiwale wept openly, holding her hands, kissing them as though to wash away the years of pain. The villagers who heard of her words marveled, the unwanted daughter had shown the strength of a queen. Weeks passed. The compound slowly rebuilt itself from shame. The villagers spoke of nothing else but Ayomide, the girl who had been falsely accused, cast out, but returned with honor, wealth, and truth. One evening, Ayomide stood before the gates of her father's house, the same gates where she had once been thrown out as a teenager with nothing but tears. She touched the gate gently, her voice soft. Once, this place rejected me. Today, I return not as the unwanted daughter, but as the woman who proved that truth never dies. Children ran to her, singing her name. Women hailed her as a symbol of strength. The men respected her as one who had conquered pain and risen above hate. But as the cheers grew, Ayomide whispered to herself. Revenge gave me justice. Forgiveness gave me peace. And now, I choose to live. Life will always test us in ways we cannot explain. Ayomide's story is not just about betrayal, it is about how lies can destroy, but also how truth, though delayed, will always rise. She was just a girl when the world turned its back on her. But she refused to remain broken. From ashes, she rose. From shame, she found strength. And from revenge, she discovered peace. Her journey reminds us that no matter what people do to us, no matter the lies told against us, no matter how much pain they cause, we must remember, the truth never dies. And those who laugh at you today will one day clap for your victory. Ayomide came back not only with wealth, but with wisdom. She taught us that revenge can heal wounds, but forgiveness gives peace to the soul. And in the end, it is not the hate of others that defines us, but the strength we carry within. Pause, deep emotional tone. Sparkles to anyone listening today who has been falsely accused, betrayed, or cast aside. Let Ayomide's story remind you, your pain can be your power, your scars can be your crown, and your end can be more beautiful than your beginning. Sparkles. Pushpin. This has been Nightfall Tales by Wara. Until we meet again, remember, truth never dies.